Alright, hello everyone. This is the first data set we will take a look at. And this is the code and everything. I will make the code available on my Google Drive and other various websites that I can. So the main goal of this script is to get just the basic team info from different sites. Like, as you can see, we have several tabs open: Wikipedia, and we have NFL.com open as well. So we're going to be starting from scratch. So we have no database at all, and so our database, or our data set, I should say for a better term, is going to come from the web. So let's start here with the first line, started from scratch. And the goal: web scrape basic NFL information from different websites. This includes getting the conference names, where the team play, the team website, and more. As more data is retrieved from the web, the newly scraped data should be appended to the main data frame. And that is basically the goal of this script here. And at the end of it, I will show you what the dataset looks like. So the first thing we have is to import our libraries. So we're gonna be using several packages and libraries. We're gonna use NumPy, Pandas, Beautiful Soup, Request. So if you've seen my other project, these are the same libraries and packages that we have used before. So it's not that much of a big introduction for that section of coding. So now we are going to be web scraping the first site, which we will retrieve the conference names in the NFL. So in the NFL, there are two conference names, and it's the American Football League, which is the AFC, and the National Football League, which is the NFC. So we are going to start from smallest to largest. So the conference names consist of two names, and then we have the divisions, which are 8 divisions, and then we have the teams, and they are 32 teams. And this is the order that the script follows when we need to web scrape something. So you can see here that we are going to use the Wikipedia site, National Football League. And we could have went in so many different directions, but I decided when I was researching that, this would be a good starting point because I wanted to start small here. And this website has some useful information, but during the script we do jump between and back and forth different websites between this website and the NFL.com website. So the thing, or the data that we need to scrape, is this right here, American Football Conference, and that's basically it. And we could do an inspect too. Also, you can see that on this site we have the team name, the city, the stadium they play for, the coordinates, first season, and a lot more information, but we don't need all of it. We just need the conference names right now, and that is our main goal. So you can see this is where our conference name resides, and let's go back to the coding. So we are going to read in our URL, parse it using an HTML parser, and then I'm going to find all the table headers with the column span of 8. And you can see here, we are looking for a table header, and the call span is equal to 8. And this is the only two cases where it's like that. Sorry if my computer is a little bit slow. Should turn this off, excuse me. So once you find that, we are good to go. And you You see that I have created a print statement showing that 0 is the American Football Conference and 1 is the National Football Conference. Then we need to create a data frame to hold the conference's names or the conference names. So we are going to set I equal to 0 and then create a column called conference columns, and then the columns will be named conference and conference abbreviation. And then the next thing we set up is another variable called conference pre-abbreviation, and this is going to hold our conference name abbreviation. So we have the American Football Conference and the National Football Conference, but in reality, they typically use the word AFC and NFC. So these are the abbreviations for it, and this is a list here. No, not a list, excuse me, a dictionary where we set up a value and it's associated with another value like a string or number or anything of that sort. And then we have our empty data frame, and this data frame will be appended, or the data frame on the inside will be appended to the data frame on the outside. So you can see that we know that there are only 2 conference names, and we are going to create a loop saying that while I is less than 2, then we would perform these steps. So as you can see before, the first thing we do is basically what the print statement does. We need to grab the location of our conference names. So I is currently on 0, so we're looking at American Football Conference. And then we have to do a bit of data manipulation or data cleaning, because when we grab the text, it has this it has a new line character or like a space or something. So we just have to remove that and clean it up, make it look a little bit neater. Then we are going to create a variable called conference stage and loop, and that is going to be our loop data frame, as I could best put it. Once that is done, we are going to overwrite that variable, and we are going to say for that data frame we are going to, and then we are going to append the data frame to itself. Once that is done, we are then going to overwrite our conference final variable, which is our empty data frame on the outside, and append it to the data frame on the inside, or vice versa. Once that is completed, we are going to add 1 to I, and then once I equals 2, we are going to break. And this is the final outcome of our data set. The first data set that we have here, and we are going to continuously build upon it. And I know the process of getting the data into a data frame and holding it there was a little bit different than what I've done before, but I just wanted to try something different and, learn new things while we are doing this project. So that's our first data set. Now we have our second goal in mind, or our second objective. So now we need to scrape the 8 divisions that are in the NFL. And we are going to use this site here that the NFL team has. So you can see we have the 8 divisions. Currently you're only seeing 4, but there's a lot more. So we have the Nfc West, Nfc South, Nfc East, Nfc North. And in each division holds 4 teams. So the good thing about this is that the teams are even, they are all uniform. It's 4 teams in every division. We are going to read in our website again, put it through an HTML parser, and then we are going to look for a table header and then something called the division name. We are not scraping the teams yet. We are just only grabbing the division name. And the division names are, again, NFC West, South, East, and North. And the same thing for the AFC as well. As you can see, South, East, North, West. So we're not scraping teams yet. We're just getting the division names. And as I said earlier in the video, we're starting from smallest to greatest. So we are starting off with the 2 conference names, and then we are going to grab the 8 division names, which we are currently on now, and then the 32 NFL teams. So again, basic, I wouldn't really say basic, but coding that we've seen before in the previous coding boxes above this script, and even in the other project that I've done. It's going to follow the same format, but with different variations, with slight variations. So we are going to set I equal to 0. This acts like our counter. We have an empty data frame, and then we have a variable that will hold, which is actually a list, that will hold our conference abbreviation column name and division column name. So we know just from research, or by if you watch football a lot, that there are 8 divisions in the NFL. So we are going to set I less than 8, because when we're programming, 0 is counted as a number. So in my experience, I don't think it really matters if you have 7 or 8 here, but it's just 8 to be safe. So the first thing we are going to do is we are going to locate the text of our first division, which is in the position of 0. And that should be, just from looking from the website and not expecting it, it should be the Nfc West should be the first position, or the 0th position. And we are going to retrieve the text. Then we are going to strip all the unnecessary spacing in front or at the end of that text. And then what we will do is we will retrieve the first 3 letters from that text. And this will give us our, a conference abbreviation. As you can see, it says div abbreviation. And so we know on the website it's uniform that it's going to say NFC, 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 NFC for all the divisions. So we could scrape, or we could cut for only the first 3 characters, and then we could call this our conference abbreviation. And that is how we are going to merge it with the other data frame that we had from earlier, So that's the first thing. Then we set up our empty data frame within the loop. Then we create our columns. We are going to say division name. So we have our division name here. So this is the full division name, and this is the division name abbreviated. So we are going to name it div staging division is going to be equal to the division name, and then div staging conference abbreviation is the div underscore abbreviation, and then we are going to append it to the data frame on the outside, and then we'll add 1 to the counter, and then once we hit 8, we are going to break the loop. And this is what our data set looks like. So you can see we have the AFC West, North, East, South. Then we have the NFC North, East, South, and West. And how the information gets inputted into the data set, you can see that NFC West is our first position, or 0. And so NFC West is the last row in this data set, meaning that how the data set, or how the data values get entered, is that at the bottom of the data set typically is the oldest values, and at the top are the newest values. And then we are going to perform a merge between our 2 data frames, the one that holds our conference names that we've seen earlier, and this one here that we are looking at now. And we are going to merge it on conference abbreviation. So that way we now have what you're looking at, our newest data frame, or our newest data set. So we have the conference with the full conference name, National Football Conference or American Football Conference. We have our conference abbreviation, which is short for NFC or AFC. And then we have our 8 divisions. So North, East, South, and West, respectively, for our NFC and AFC. And you can see that we start from 0 and we only end up with 7 because, as I said earlier, 0 is counted as a number. So this part is really heavy on the data cleaning because there was a lot of, symbols that we didn't really need. So we're still looking at that same page again, but now we need to grab our teams. But not only do we need to grab our teams, we have to make sure that the teams are aligned correctly. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So we have the Nfc West. The Nfc West consists of the Seattle Seahawks, the Los Angeles Rams, Arizona Cardinals, San Francisco 49ers. So when we scrape it, we can't have the Seattle Seahawks in the NFC South division because that would be wrong in terms of how the NFL has their divisions structured. So there are a couple of things that we have to do for this. So let's go back to the individual box of code in here. Basically, we have the division name, the team full name, and the team short name. And that's what the Beautiful Soup is looking for. And that division name, we know the division name because we looked at it earlier. We need this information. Club full name is basically the NFL team full name, and club short name is basically the team short name. So now we have gone from 2 to 8 to 32 now. We're looking at the NFL teams. So we set up 3 counters or 3 variables, and they all will start from 0. We set up I, D, and C equal to 0. And then we also have a data frame on the outside as usual. So while I is less than 32, this is basically, while I is less than 31, this is basically representing the 32 teams in the NFL. But because we start from 0 as 1, we only have to go to 31. So this is our team loop. Within that loop, we have another loop or a nested loop, and we are going to say while D is less than 8. We do this because we have 8 divisions in the NFL. And then once it hit 8, that means we're done completely with scraping the team names and everything. So the first thing we are going to do, we are going to create a variable, and then we are going to get our division name, which we've seen before, which is AFC West, AFC East, AFC South, the stuff like that. And then we're going to clean it up. And then we are going to take the individual team name, which is the club full name, and basically clean it up a little bit. There are some text that are not needed, like this XZ here, XY, basically representing that the team has made the playoffs or they won their division. But we don't need that, so we're going to strip that away from our text and move on. And we are also going to scrape our team short name. So the Dolphins, Chargers, Broncos are considered the team short names on this website, whereas the team full name is the Denver Broncos, Las Vegas Raiders, Miami Dolphins, teams, full, city, and team mascot or team name, basically. We also perform a bit of data cleaning on this as well, and then we are going to create our new data frame. So we have our team name, and then the division, and then the team name short. And I've already said what the team name short is, but it's just like the Broncos, Chargers, Dolphins. And then we are going to take what we have in the inside of our data frame that's inside our loop, and append it to the data frame on the outside. Once we do that, we then will tell the data frame, on the outside to perform these processes, basically replacing like the characters we don't need, because at the time of me scraping this, the NFL season was already over, and so typically once it's over, they put symbols next to the team name representing if they are in the playoffs, won the conference, or won the division. So we have to get rid of that. In this process, it's a lot of repetition, trying to delete things that should not be there, but it's nothing too crazy, although it makes the code a lot longer, but doesn't really affect performance. Once we do that, we will add 1 to I, add 1 to I, add 1 to C. Then we will say if C is equal to 4, we need to add 1 to D. And this D represents the divisions. And then we will reset C back to 0. So this is the most important part of the code here. And it's highlighted. So C represents the amount of teams in a division. And because the NFL has 32 teams, we can break it down evenly into 4 teams each division. So once we are done with the first team, I is going to add 1. This is our outside loop, so we need to hit 31 or 32. Then we are going to add 1 to C. C is our teams in the division, so we are going to add 1 to C. Once we repeat this process 4 times and C is equal to 4, we need to stop because we have to move on to a new division. And you can see we scrape for the division name here for this line, in this line of coding. So let's say we're on Nfc West. Once we perform our loop 4 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, we are going to reset C back to 0 and then move on to the next division because we have added 1 to D. Every time we add 1 to D, it means that we are changing the divisions. And then we will reset C back to 0, meaning that there are another 4 teams that need to be scraped within this division. I'm hoping that makes sense, but it's a little bit confusing on like how to scrape it and how to get this work around. And this is the final data frame that we have here. You can see that the Denver Broncos are in the AFC West and their team short name is the Broncos. So we can do a couple checks here, like checking if the Houston Texans are in the AFC South. And let's see here, just to verify, AFC South, Houston Texans, they finished with a 4-12 record. Miami Dolphins, that is my favorite team, and they should be in the AFC East, as they are. Patriots are in the AFC East as well, because I've watched football for a long time now, and I know which teams, for a good part, should be in what divisions. So now that we have this, we now need to merge this with our data frame or our data set that we seen earlier, which is this one. So we are going to merge it on the division column because in this data frame, none of these values repeat. There are 8 in terms of speaking like the English language, 8 unique divisions. But in this data frame, the divisions are repeated. That's fine with us because it's going to be a one-to-many relationship. So we perform another merge, and we are going to take the data frame that we are looking at now and the data frame that we've previously looked at with the division names, the conference name, and the conference abbreviation, and we are going to tell it merge it on this column, which is the division column. And how we want to do it is that we are going to do a left merge, or in SQL terms, because I kind of relate this to SQL, we are going to do a left outer join. So I'm saying everything in this data frame I want, and then everything in this data frame that has a match, bring it over. And hopefully that makes sense on how the merge work, but it's not the best explanation, I know. So as you can see, once we've made our merge, everything in this final team's division table is merged onto our conference division staging table. So our new data frame is called NFLDF, and this is the data frame we are going to go with from here on out. So we have our team name, the division, the short team name, the conference name, and the conference abbreviation. So we basically added those two data frames together, but we really haven't added a lot of new information that we didn't already know. So we're going back to the Wikipedia link, and same steps here again. We are going to get the city and the stadium the teams play for. So this time we are going to set up a variable starting at 17, and we set up another variable starting at 16. The reason for this is because we're looking at 16 as the team and 17 as the city. So the one thing that we are going to do here first is that we have our data frame on our side, we have all our variables set up, and we are going to say while P is less than 32. Like I said earlier, it could be 31 or it could be 32. Doesn't really matter in my case that I've seen. So in our NFL data frame, we are going to take the team name. We are going to start with the first position. Once we do that, we go through the basic steps again of finding the team name and then finding the city that the team plays in. This gets a little bit convoluted, but no worries. Basically, we have a variable called city team, and then we're starting from 16. This is the team name. And then once we move on a little further down the code, we have our city info, which is basically the city that the team plays in. And you can see we are going to retrieve that text. So we create another data frame here. It's going to be called city staging. We set up two different columns, team name, and then we overwrite the team name column because, again, there was a bit of data cleaning that I had to do in the process. So we're looking at city staging, which is the city, which is our wiki city, and then we have our city team _ 3. Like I said, this is our team name and this is our city name. And then of course we will append it to the data frame on the outside. And then we will add 1 to T, add 7 to N because that is the next location of the team name, add 1 to P, and then add 7 to Z. That is the next location of the city name. And then again, once we hit P equals to 32, we are going to break the loop, and this is what our data frame looks like. So we have our team name and we have the city that the team plays in. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers play in Tampa, Florida. New Orleans Saints play in New Orleans, Louisiana. And then the Washington football team plays in Landover, Maryland. So now we need to join this data frame to the main data frame that we have. And we are going to do that again using a left join or a merge using a left join. So we're looking at the NFLDF. I'm saying that in the NFL data frame data set, I want everything in that data set, and you are going to perform a left join on the city final using the team name. So whatever you have in the right table, whatever we have in this NFL DF table, show me all the results, and then bring over what you have in the right data frame, which is city final, but it has to be a match. And this is what our final data frame looks like. Well, not our final data frame, but what our data frame currently looks like. So we have the team name, division, short team name, conference abbreviation, and now we have added the city the team has played for. So get the team logo, which is this site right here. The team logo and the team website. Basically, same steps that we've seen before, but this time we are dealing with an image. So now that we have our data frame, we can use it to our advantage. So we set up two variables again, both equal to 0 in an empty data frame. Set up our while loop while I is less than 32. And then we begin with a index locator from our NFL data frame data set. We're going to start at 0. And the reason I did this is because when you inspect on this website, this team here, let's say if it said the Miami Dolphins, it would take us to that image, and then we would just have to proceed with the steps of getting that image, and this is exactly what we do here. So get data src, this gives us our picture link. Set up a empty data frame as usual, and then we create our two columns, team name, which is the team, and then the team logo URL, which is basically the link for the team logo. And then we are going to append it to the data frame on the outside and repeat this process for 32 times. So let's look at one of the pictures here. Sometimes the link may change, but I'm hoping it did not. There we go. We have the Seattle Seahawks, and this is the link for them. So it looks like it didn't change. When I was doing this, the NFL, it seemed like they changed like the attribute or the class that these values were held in. So now that we have that, we have our team name and team logo URL. We are going to perform yet another merge, again using a left outer join. The reason why we do a left outer join is because I want to see if I missed anything in our right data frame data set. I would say I need to see what is missing, and it'll tell me, it'll return null values. I don't want to inner join, because if I have an inner join, I'm only seeing what's matching, and if I'm only seeing what is matching, excuse me, I can't see what I am missing. Sorry. So now we've added the city column and the team logo URL. The next step for us is to basically grab the team website. And again, nothing we haven't seen before. Again, data manipulation here is a little bit heavy, and it's well needed. But in the end, we are able to scrape the team name or the team website. So we set up two variables again, 0, and then we start from 1, and then an empty data frame, of course. So now we are saying while TW is less than 64, we are going to perform these steps. So TW, so on this website, which is basically the same website we are looking at that we got our team picture from, TW is 0. This is basically our team name, but how they have it structured on this particular website that we are using the link for is that they put dashes in place of the spaces for the team name. So I have to change that because we need to find that common link between our main data frame and this data frame that we are about to create. So you can see I take the first 7 characters and then I want everything else. And then I'm going to do a bit of data manipulation, removing the slashes, removing the dashes, and then we are going to capitalize the first letter of each space or each new word. And so that creates our team name here. The second thing is that we are going to scrape our website name now. So now basically going through the whole process of getting the tag or class for the website link, creating a new data frame, creating our 2 new columns. We have our team name and we have the website, and then we are going to append it to the data frame on the outside, and then we are going to add 2 to TW and 2 to W, and once TW equals 64, which is basically 32 if I were to set it up as TW plus 1. Once TW hits 64, we are going to break. And there was one more step where I had to do a little bit more data cleaning. The 49ers, they had this issue where this E was capitalized and the E should be lowercase because that's how it is in this data frame, and we can't merge it. The merge wouldn't pick it up because it's case sensitive, I believe. And that's why our left join is important, because if I didn't use a left join, I would have never caught this and I would have been wondering what team am I missing. So we have another merge here. This is the final merge, and it's going to merge the team website, and that's basically it. Once we do that, we are going to export it to a CSV. We are going to remove the index, and then that's basically it for this data frame, and we can take a quick look at it. So this is what our data frame looks like. You see every team is listed here, and we click it. In Excel, if you click inside of a cell that has a link and then click outside and click inside back again, it'll turn into a HTTPS link. So we have the Baltimore Ravens, and let's check out the link for them as well. Sorry. Let's see. There we go. And this will take us to the Ravens website. And there we go. And we are going to use this for our Power BI visualization. Like, the main goal of this is to have everything be used in Power BI so that it makes it like a NFL dashboard of some sort. But that's it for this video. I will see you guys in the next data set.